evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio. It's your old friend Virgil back once again with the trifecta. My co-hosts today, Mark, Jeff, say hello.
How are you?
Hello.
And we're coming off of a crazy wave of a holiday weekend. It has been madness for sure. Zombiefest VII. What do you think, guys? It was pretty nuts.
It was great.
It was an unusual Zombiefest because I believe the weather has had this amazing record for 6 years. Keep in mind, this is Zombiefest VII. For 6 years, we had an impeccable record of nice weather on that weekend. And then Zombiefest VII came around and killed it.
Yeah, you're telling me. It was cold. It was rainy. It was windy. Man.
But yeah, Mark hit it right on the head. 6 years we went with no rain.
Right.
And I joked with everybody that the 6 years worth of rain came all on Friday.
Yeah, you're just about correct. Yeah, exactly.
Left us with a wet lot, which is never fun, although we're in preparations to repair some of the lot. It's when it gets wet and we have a big crowd, which we knew we were going to get on Saturday. It just makes things a little bit more difficult as far as maneuvering. But this was a banner weekend because it just shows how great this team is. I know we talk about it all the time, but the extended team, the volunteers pulling together to really help us out this weekend, because we were down a lot person. We were down a couple people. So like to have everybody pull together is really another level for the Mahoning as far as the magic of what we pulled together.
Yeah.
And one of our volunteers, Dave, it was his first time on the lot, period.
David, yeah.
Our newest employee, Kaylin, I believe was her first night on the lot this weekend. So these are two people being thrown into what we usually think of as just the mania of Zombiefest. And perhaps lucky for them, the weather was so horrible that the crowd was very sedate. Like nobody wanted to leave their cars.
Yeah.
There wasn't the usual amount of socializing outside because it was freezing and wet.
Yeah.
But they all did great for their first time, and they had a great time considering they were, out in the elements the whole time.
Yeah, the drive-in just kind of brings that out. Whether you're a beginner or whether you've been there 20 years like I have, when you're there, it just changes everything. It just brings you out. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it.
And we had some amazing films this weekend for sure. Rob definitely stepped it up again this weekend, knocking it out the park. He got some round of applause during the show, which is always heartwarming for sure. We had a really great, well, Jeff, why don't you tell them, you weren't there on, what day was that? Saturday or Saturday?
It was Saturday. I had the radio show in central Pennsylvania, so I had to bow out completely.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Robert the night before I left, and I said, okay, these are your switches. This is what you touch. These are knobs are already adjusted. These you don't touch. And I was going through the whole thing, and the whole time I'm thinking, boy, I hope this goes well, because if they call me with a problem, I'm an hour and a half away. Yeah, I know, it was great. But, so I'm kind of listening for my phone. And, when we were on the air, I was setting it to buzz. So if somebody called or something, but I never heard a peep out of you guys. And I was really pleased when I got back the next day that everything had gone so well. I mean, Robert is my assistant projectionist, and he loves running the film so much. It's like, I can't tell him no. I mean, I told him, I said, I've been doing it for 40 years. I'm not going to miss it. If you really want to run these, you can run them. But anytime you start feeling burned out, I want you to tell me, because I'll take over. And he just is crazy about it. You know what he told me? He said, I don't know how many of you guys heard this. He said, it's like being high all the time. I never heard it put that way before. As much as I've loved the job to do it for over 40 years, here's a guy doing it and he says it's like being high all the time.
It's amazing.
I know. I never heard it put that way before.
Well, you can really tell he literally is flying on a cloud when he's in there. He's like in his element. And on Saturday, he had the chance to make all the announcements, be the kind of guy on air like you normally are.
Right.
And he took great pride in that. Certainly the nerves came along with it, but took amazing pride in it. And it was just such a fun kind of collaborative night, you know, because we were all gathered in the projection booth. We were all behind Rob just to, you know, just in case.
Right.
But yeah, everything went absolutely flawlessly. Besides the weather, you know, it was a really, really great weekend. And Thursday was great. Sunday was great. We still got those couple days of, you know, traditional socializing at the Mahoning Fair. But yeah, that Friday and Saturday, we actually had to bring the guests inside, which was a whole juggle. But
right.
We make it work. And the guests this weekend were absolutely awesome. We had Scott Renninger and Galen Ross on Thursday and Friday, who are stars of Dawn of the Dead, and they were awesome.
Yeah.
And on Saturday, we had
Camille Keaton.
Who was absolutely amazing. And yeah, we absolutely love when these guests come in and just kind of fall in love with what we do. And even Galen came walking up to me and she says, you know, I saw the documentary. How's the baby?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just like, what world is this? So
That's
it was a lot of fun. And of course, we have to give a shout out to Harry. 7 years. That's what I kept saying on the radio this weekend. 7 years. And this was the first one that we kind of struck out as it being proposed as an annual event, something that could grow. And what the Mahoning has become is pretty much reliant on annual events. Our whole calendar is, you know, a smattering of annual events, you know, number 7,
Right.
8, 9 as we go along. But it's really amazing to look back and think on all the zombie fests that we had, you know, from the no cars struggling, Harry stressed out that nobody's here, to the success now. It's such a crazy wave.
Zombiefest has become this nationally beloved thing, which is not to say everybody in every small town knows what it is, but we have people coming from all over the country for this show, driving in, flying in. You know, one of our newest friends and customers is from Salt Lake City, and he flies out. This is like the third time he's flown out to see a show with us, I believe, and he's going to keep coming back. He's a Simplex member who gets use of that discount despite living on the West Coast. That's wonderful.
It is.
And let us take a moment to slack-jawed and wide-eyed admire, in retrospect, the photo ops that JT and Jonathan put together for us this weekend, because I'm speechless. I mean, JT put together this photo op that was him as the underwater zombie from Fulci's Zombie fighting the shark. So he was in a pretty darn accurate costume, including a wig that he bought to make his hair look like the hair from the zombie in that movie. And he suspended from wires a full-size shark. And he had sand on the ground, which I think was left over from our Dune photo op, and an aquatic background. And Jonathan from the Haunted Forestry Service, who comes out several times a season and does amazing outdoor photo op and decor with us. He had created these really cool lighting effects, so it looked like you were underwater, and people just couldn't believe how cool that looked.
It was nuts. James is a madman, you know, like I think he is the perfect example of kind of creativity on fire. You know, when you see him in his element, taking hours to get himself screen perfect and accurate, it was nuts. You know, I saw him in the back kind of placing the kind of paper mache to look like his skin was coming off. Took him hours, absolutely hours. Then he's out there, and it was literally freezing this weekend, pushing 30 or 40 degrees. And he's out there barefoot for hours taking photos.
It was amazing. The weather was just terrible. And I went out and looked at the photo op, and he's there, you know, bouncing around and acting like it's the middle of summer and everybody else is freezing. He's incredible. He's incredible.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. And we see it. Like, James can put himself through hell with these photo ops, where it's a lot of them, because there's so many, are a last minute effort. He's pulling people in from everywhere. But when he pulls it off and you look at it, and then you look at the social media on Monday, you're just like, this is what it's all about, you know? It's the perfect kind of intro for anybody who comes to the Mahoning, because they may be there for the love of the 35, the drive-in, you know, the culture in general. But once the event takes hold of them, it's like, oh, wow. You know, like this is really something special beyond being a cool drive-in.
You are absolutely correct.
And beyond just the underwater zombie versus shark photo op, I walk out of the snack bar on, I think, Friday or Saturday. I don't remember which night it was. And I look over to the right, and Jonathan has set up another Fulci zombie photo op toward the corner of the building where our merch tent used to be, near the exhumed side now. And it's the zombie that rises up out of the ground. For anybody who was a fan of the movie all these years, it's the zombie you always see on the poster. But and he had the music from the movie playing. Both photo ops actually, I think, had the music from that scene in the film playing on a loop while you could stand there and get your photo taken with the zombie. And I saw everybody from grown men to little kids being thrilled that they were taking their photo
laying on the ground, the wet ground.
Before the show, I'm in the projection booth hanging out and talking, and I chalk to the left, and Jonathan is creating with a sheet and some rope like a body that he's like, hey, look on the condiment table.
Sheets, yep.
There's a soon-to-be rising from the dead body being created right now, and he carried that out. And it was just people had such a blast taking pictures with that, and the lighting was so good. It's just when those guys get together. I mean, JT is a powerhouse and a force, and Jonathan is great at what he does, and the two of us get together, and it's just like, I don't know, it's like Godzilla and Mothra teaming up. It's just,
it's funny when you say Jonathan, because I'm always like, who is that? We always call Jonathan Mr. Bones. That's who he's known as on the lot. Whenever he comes through the gate, we say, Mr. Bones is in the house. And the reason we call him that is I think the first event he helped us with was maybe Vam Party, like one of the very first ones.
It was.
But he brought a truck, no joke, a truck full of skeletons and bones. And since then, we were like, this is Mr. Bones.
Yeah.
That's now his name.
And caskets. There were times where I was still sleeping in the snack bar, and
he's like, how many you need?
Some of them had been used. Some of them had previous occupants. He told us that he made these caskets. And we would take our turn, getting photos coming out of the caskets and things like that. And then at night, everybody would go home, and I would be sleeping amongst all of these caskets, which was a really a nice
which
vibe.
Is just another nice added element of crazy.
Yeah, little added spooky for my attempted sleep.
Yeah, it's weekends like this that I really say, like, when Al was following us around with the camera, like we were in this state of like really hustling to put on events and blah blah blah. Now it's like any weekend you could have a camera on us, and it's this series of craziness and crazy moments that happen. And it's nice that we get together on a regular basis and kind of record this and kind of lock it in,
Yeah, well, it's a permanent recording of what we're doing, because eventually memories are going to fade.
Oh yeah, I think back to I was thinking back to Zombiefest 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, what did we play on that year? What did we play? It's impossible. Lucky enough, we have a lot of great fans who track everything we do through Letterboxd and apps like that. So our whole calendar is well saved and well viewable for fans. And I can always go back and look at our old booking calendars too, but it's just nuts to think back on it. But the great thing with Facebook, as questionable as it can be, is it gives you those memories. And this time of year, because we do this on Memorial Day every single year, Memorial Day weekend, we get those memories, and I can look back and be like, oh my gosh, look at how much James has grown up. Or wow, look at Mark was baby faced.
Yeah.
I was clean shaven once.
Yeah.
That's right.
Speaking of which, for posteriority, if anybody wants to know what we ran this last weekend for Zombiefest VII, and I say it's Exhumed Films provides a lot of the prints, does the what do you want to call it? The curation of this event, and we host it. So Thursday was Dawn of the Dead, digitally presented. On Friday, we had Demons 2, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, and a digital version of Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, aka Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. On Saturday, we had Fulci's Zombie, the film Raw Force, which was a popular film on the lot because nobody knew quite what to make of it. It's an action movie. It's a saucy movie. It's a comedy. It's sort of a zombie movie. It's sort of martial arts. It's sort of a spoof of old cliffhanger serials. I quite enjoyed it. And that's the film, Harry had brought Camille Keaton out to, she's best known for being in I Spit in Your Grave, but we were showing Raw Force, which she appears in. And the whole time I'm thinking, boy, I kind of know Raw Force and I don't remember where she is. I would think she'd be kind of prominent and I would remember in that movie. And then the scene comes and goes, and I was looking at the screen going,
Was that her?
That might be her. She's got hair in front of her face. She's half naked, and a guy is trying to pry her pants off in a bathroom. It's done comedically, and I'm like, I'm not sure. And then I looked up on IMDb, and she is credited as "Girl in Toilet." So apparently was her.
Girl in Toilet.
We encouraged her to do, as we often do, to do an introduction to the movie, and she didn't quite have a lot to say. And after watching the movie, I'm like, of course she has nothing to say. Like, she probably doesn't even remember doing what was probably a 1-hour shoot in a studio in LA somewhere. But she was very gracious, very nice lady, very fun to hang around with. On Saturday, the last film was I Walked with a Zombie, the classic 1943 film with Bela Lugosi. Always cool to see some nice old black and white on that screen.
Right.
They don't fill the screen, but that movie probably played there originally. Oh no, actually it wouldn't have. 43, little too old, but it's still, it's cool to see an old black and white movie last on the bill late at night when it's usually pretty quiet on the lot, nice and spooky. Sunday, final day of Zombiefest VII, was Delamarte Delamore, aka Cemetery Man, and House by the Cemetery, another Fulci film. And then it wrapped up with a movie called The Child, which not very well known, not very often screened, but was kind of a cool, weird spooker to end it all with. So a pleasant time was had by all who came out and made it out and survived the weekend.
A wild ride for sure. And I'll tell you what, Zombie delivers every single time on the lot. It didn't matter that the rain was coming down.
No.
People were audibly gasping and screaming at the perfect moments. And the moment for me, because we were all hanging out in the projection booth that night, was having Jessica, Mark, Val, Nance, and myself and Rob all peeking through just the 2 portholes in the projection booth and watching as slowly as this woman gets the splinter to the eye, and it was just so much fun to hear people losing their mind out there. And I got a perfect shot of that scene too, and everybody watching it. But you brought up Camille and her small role in Raw Force, which Raw Force was a trip, man. It literally had everything. It had kung fu, it had zombies. You're like, what's going on? But Camille, as she's giving this speech, which she was amazing, everybody loved her. Mark pointed out, hey, this print that's right behind her, which we are in the midst of inspecting from our own personal collection, he goes, she's in this movie. Little did we know that I guess that happened when you were looking up her stuff on IMDb.
It was the next film under Raw Force in her filmography.
So weird. The fact that she could have literally tripped over that thing. It was so close.
The other moment a lot of us were eagerly peering out the portholes in the projection booth for was when JT decided to do a shadow cast under the screen during the shark versus zombie moment in Zombie.
Oh, yeah.
He ran out with the inflatable shark that we had as a backup shark, and Sheila and Diego and Daryl were out there with their cameras and a light following him, and he was wrestling the shark on the grass under the screen while it was happening on screen at the same time. And it was it was ridiculous and hilarious and wonderful for all those who were in the front row who had no idea that movie was going to come to life right in front of them.
He's a madman. At least he had shoes on for that run. But
we all insisted that he put shoes on for doing that.
He's like, not screen accurate, not doing it. But yeah, that's that type of Mahoning touches, that really make even a rainy weekend at the Mahoning just something that you're never going to forget. And I'm sure I may have said this on the podcast, but that's something that I really carry over from my years on stage. The mantra was always give them a show that they're going to remember for years to come and be talking about at their holiday dinners, not something that's just a simple, hour and a half escape like you get at your traditional theaters. It's hard to describe sometimes because there's so much that goes into it as far as planning, but then there's so much that's just off the cuff, even on it's crazy, but even for the photo ops, I'll tell James, like, I had no idea you were going to do this.
Oh yeah.
Until it pops up there,
Another thing to go back to Raw Force to sort of talk about what we were talking about in last week's episode, if you're listening to these chronologically, Raw Force had notes on the print on reel 4. I think it said damaged on the leader in all caps. And I think initially the discussion was perhaps we would run the first 3 or 4 reels of raw force on 35 and then switch over to the Blu-ray from our digital setup so that, it would be watchable. And was it Jeff or Rob that inspected the print?
Robert inspected the print, but I told him to take a look at it. I said, take a look at reels 4 and 5. That's where the damage is supposed to be. I said, because if it's not bad, if it's just a slight bit of damage like funeral home, I said, I want to run the print. I said to stop a print and then switch the sound over to the digital booth and then try to pick up where it's too much of an interruption.
It's disruptive.
Right. That's not professional. You either run the print or you run the DVD and you go the whole way through the thing. So I told Robert, let's see how bad that damage is. Take a look at it. And we were pleased to find out that, hey, this can be run.
And I was watching from the front row because it's a movie that I enjoy. And I'd seen that print once before. Some friends do a show up at the Highway Drive-In in Coxsackie, New York. And they had booked raw force. This was years ago. And they knew that there was this potentially gummy or beat up print. And they decided they would program it last just in case it was going to jam up the projectors or something. You just end the show a little bit early. But at that point, they were doing their show, I think, entirely on 35 too. But I sat there and I was ready for it. I knew where it was coming up, and it was some water damage, which looks like white flashes, little white spicks and specks on the frame. But I don't think it even lasted a minute. It was you could see it, but it didn't really detract that much. And it was gone as soon as you realized what was going on.
Yeah, maybe the last 2 minutes of that 4th reel into 5. And I was in there with Robert as we're watching for the cue mark. I wanted to be extra eyes just in case. And it was the weirdest thing because the damage just caused this full whiteout every maybe 2 seconds. So you'd see image, whiteout, see image, whiteout. And I was like, oh, this is going to be impossible to catch this cue mark. And you could catch it just through the damage, But it was a really great show and a really fun movie. And I'm really glad that we decided to stick with it. That's something we have talked about here too, about the purest angle. We're really leaning into that as much as we can this year. As far as just straight up canceling some shows or bookings that we know we can't get on 35 and sticking with the grounds. I mean, last thing we want to do is put a gummy damage sprint through the projector. But in this case, it was just the damage wasn't as bad as it made it seem.
It's so scary. We dare you to see The Monsters Crash the Pajama Party, the first movie ever filmed in horror vision, Hollywood's latest miracle. You'll scream as fiendish movie monsters actually become alive, then crash right out of the screen, go into the audience, and carry screaming girls from their seats right back into the picture to become part of the movie. We warn you, horror vision is not 3D. The movie monsters become real flesh and blood. Be sure to see The Monsters Crash the Pajama Party in horror vision and color.
And that's something that we're having to deal with our Patreon screenings. For those who don't know, we have a Patreon. By the way, we have since I think April or May. And the top level of Patreon monthly gets a secret screening. We show a film from our collection that we have of what I refer to as our grindhouse prints, because they were run through the ringer many moons ago. They all date from the 70s, early 80s. And some were not stored in the most ideal condition. So we're happy to have Jeff and Rob look through those and see if they're playable or not. And in water damage is certainly a potential issue. I mean, we had a print of Savage Sisters that we ran at one of our postseason private staff parties. And the damage was such that you really wouldn't want to run that for an audience because it was a pretty major distraction. And I think one reel was so bad we couldn't even run it. So we're highly aware of not running something where the damage is, a little damage here and there. It's a print that's been lived in, and that's what film is. But when it becomes so distracting, you're paying more attention to the damage than you are the movie. We try to avoid that.
Especially if you have to cut almost a whole reel out. That's just too much of an interruption, interrupts the storyline. You just can't run stuff when it's that bad.
Yeah, we're running it so somebody can be entertained or moved or informed, and not so that we just can check a box that we've passed that piece of film through a projector and move on to the next one.
Right, exactly.
Flips, the new snack sensation. Flips, the crispy, crunchy chip with a zesty, tantalizing flavor all its own, and an airy lightness that's so satisfying, but not filling. We make them fresh right here, so you can treat yourself to a cup or a bag full of America's newest chip-type snack while you're watching the show. Flips, deliciously different.
Hey everybody, this is Zach Allegan from Gremlins and Waxwork and all sorts of other movies you probably saw at the drive-in. You're listening to Mahoning Drive-In Radio.
But we got some really, really fun shows coming up. A lot of stuff to look forward to. Liz, our web designer and my sister-in-law, is working on a calendar for the month. We're thinking that might be a nice new angle to try to get it out there, make people aware of everything that's happening within the month instead of on the week of. That's what we were talking about right before we recorded. Is there's so many shows this year, literally almost 90 events the Mahoning is putting on this year. And to be able to promote them all and give them all the attention and love that they need is very, very hard. Unless we literally bombard the social medias every other hour. But we try to be tactful with it as far as not beating people over the head. We know what it's like to be fans of a page that just puts too much out, you know?
Yeah.
But we do have a ton of great stuff coming up. We want to make sure that we plug some of it for those of you guys that are hearing this, hopefully on your way to Thanksgiving weekend or whenever this drops. We do have Thanksgiving coming up this Friday and Saturday, the 4th and the 5th. On Friday, we got League of Their Own and Sleepless in Seattle, perfect double. And on Saturday, another perfect double with The Burbs and Money Pit. Money Pit, we've talked about, is totally a selfish booking. Jeff and I love that picture.
Yeah.
That's a remake of the Cary Grant film Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, which if nobody has seen is a really funny, good time.
Yeah.
This is just an 80s updating with a bit more slapstick. And the slapstick really delivers in this movie.
A lot of great high-pitched Hanks in this. I always judge my level of love for Hanks on how high-pitched he gets in the movie.
Yeah.
We got Spaghetti Sunday returning on the 6th, the first Sunday of the month, with a few dollars more, which if you guys were there for a fistful, it was absolutely glorious. We had almost 200 people for that show, so we hope to see a bunch of you guys back. The Tuesdays this month are madness. Killer Clowns from Outer Space on the 8th. Of course, that's in partnership with Exhumed Films, as always, on Tuesdays. Tromathon returns on the 11th and 12th. That's a Friday and a Saturday, not to be missed. To follow up that gory, gross madness, we have a little palate cleanser on the 13th for the kids. Discount Disney Sunday returns with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And it's worth mentioning on the 14th, that's a Monday, not open to the public, but we are doing a really, really cool community event where we're opening up our lot to the 8th graders at the local middle school to come in and have their dance. So they're going to be having their dance on the lot. They're going to be watching a movie. We're hooking them up with some concessions. It's going to be a really great time. We're looking forward to that. On the 15th, that's a Tuesday, The Brood, which we're all very, very excited about. Whenever Cronenberg comes to town, we're ultra excited. On the 18th, it's a single night event. Creature Feature Convention's coming to town for a single night event. Kyoto Brothers will be there live as we play Critters 1 and Critters 2 back to back. We will have a Q&A sesh with the Kyotos, which we're super excited about. On the 22nd, Maximum Overdrive. This is just a super fun one. Exhumed Films presents Drive-In Apocalypse, which is all kind of post-apocalyptic films. We have, 8 films throughout the weekend. Terminator, Cherry 2000, Running Man, Death Race 2000, and let me think Sunday, Omega Man and Logan's Run, just to name a few, if that wasn't enough. And to wrap out the month, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, on 35, which we're very, very pleased we finally got the hands on that. So lots to look forward to this month. MahoningDIT.com for all the dates, deets, ticks, all that good stuff.
And for anybody who asks and wonders why we don't show a certain film during a weekend dedicated to a director or a star like Thanksgiving, we only have 4 slots. And when you're looking at a filmography like Tom Hanks, who I would say is, this might be sacrilege, but I put him, if you think about it, in the same category as kind of a Jimmy Stewart. He's kind of an American acting icon at this point.
Oh,
he's been doing it for 30, 40 years ish.
Yeah.
There's so many movies, so many slam dunk, stone cold classic movies to choose from, let alone his slightly lesser known cult favorites. How do you pick just 4? We did. And hopefully if this does well enough, we'll pick 4 again the next year and 4 again the next year. And we could go a long while showing Tom Hanks movies that are good.
Yep.
So if you didn't see your favorite Hanks film this year, we still encourage you to come out and support it so that we can do different Hanks movies next year.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying, why not Big? Why not Bachelor Party? Why not Splash? And we keep joking, if this puppy comes back, the second serving of Thanksgiving coming up next year.
Exactly, yeah.
The man with no name is back.
The man in black is waiting.
The name of the new film, For a Few Dollars More. Clint Eastwood is the man with no name. Lee Van Cleef is waiting. For a Few Dollars More. It's in color. It's from United Artists. It's the second motion picture of its kind. It won't be the last.
Hi, I'm Chili Dilly, the personality pickle. Packed in a jar for the freshest flavor. Served cold in a sack for you to savor. So dainty to eat, no muss, no fuss. An ideal snack for all of us. Crisp, tender, and tasty with a bit of spice. Buy one now. Taste how nice. Snack bar clerks will knock themselves silly, speeding your order for a real Chili Dilly.
So one thing I wanted to talk about, to get into, we always like to talk about the nuts and bolts and the inside skinny and how we do things here, is ticketing. We work with Ticket Leap. If anybody has purchased advance tickets to any of our shows, you've used Ticket Leap since April. We also sell tickets at the gate. That's a question that I get a lot. Will tickets be available at the gate? I always say the only way to be assured that you're getting into one of our shows is to buy an advance ticket. Now, not every show sells out. Some shows sell out incredibly fast. Some take their time. Some don't even come close. But if you want to be guaranteed you're getting in, buy that advance ticket. If not, I tell people any show that is not sold out by the time we open gates on the night, you can get a ticket and overnight passes at the gate. It's not that big a deal. Some people don't know their schedule that far in advance. Sometimes it's a financial thing, whatever. But one thing we do need to say and stress is that the policy has always been no refunds and no transfers. All shows are rain or shine, as was evidenced this last weekend during heavy rain and no shine. We ran the movies anyway, because that's just how it goes. We're not like an indoor theater or a first run drive-in where we will have the same movies week after week. Everything we do, unless we show movies the same, unless we show the same double feature Friday and Saturday, it's different movies every night. So if you don't see it when we're showing it, you maybe in a few years we'll play it again, but not likely. So we get and have been getting numerous requests for refunds. I deal with this. He laughs because he knows. I deal with at least 5 or more of these a week.
Easily.
It's
always when the rain or the bad weather comes, or various kind of issues within the family or whatever the case is. And Mark's incredible with handling all these guest relation, customer issues things, and he makes everybody happy, believe me. But
until now,
it's not even like that. We just want to stress that there's so many events that we are putting on, and almost every weekend is in partnership with another entity, whether it's Exhumed Films or Creature Feature or whatever the case is. And for us to transfer tickets from one event to another, somebody is eating that, unfortunately. And we want to help everybody out. We will continue to help everybody out, but it's good for everybody to know that we are not a traditional drive-in. We are not a traditional movie theater. If you think of the Mahoning as, let's say, a concert, going to a weekend-long festival or going to a sporting event, going to a baseball game. Unfortunately, if it rains, you can't walk up to the ticket booth and say, I'd like to exchange these couple tickets in. We would love to do that for you. We would really, really love to. But by the time that, the show comes around, it's more, the deals are more than done. And that's really the reason why we stopped. We really never offered transfers. We were able to do it easily when we had nobody coming to the theater. But of recent years, that's been something we've been doing for almost 4 years at least. So, and like you said, rain or shine, that's really the only issue. If somebody doesn't want to come because of the rain, it's always clearly marked in all of our ticketing. All events are rain or shine. They're going to go off whether the rain comes in or not. And this weekend was a perfect example. People had the time of their lives, regardless of the fact that it rained for probably 12 hours straight on Saturday.
Yeah. And it took a short break and then resumed the next day.
Yeah, just as the gates opened.
So we're not heartless. We're not cold. I always say the difference, if I was sitting at the cash register or standing at it, the difference between me and the person on the other side of the counter is that distance of counter. We are who you are. We love movies. We love going to movies and theaters and events and all that kind of stuff. And we try to run the place as customer friendly as possible. But the exchanging tickets and the refunds has gotten to be more than we can handle, because it's really kind of one or two of us doing this in addition to a lot of other things. And it really messes with the internal accounting. So we just wanted to say that as of June 1st, we're doing what we always said we would be doing, which is no ticket transfers, no refunds. All shows are rain or shine. If you're worried about weather, maybe I suggest planning to buy at the gate. We always give a nice shout on our Facebook channel or our Facebook page. If a low ticket alert, which is what, 50? What is the number that you consider a low ticket alert?
So I always go, depending on the cap, I always go about 150 tickets left.
Okay.
Because 150 tickets can go very, very fast at the Mahoning, and it lets people know, okay, maybe now is the time that I make that decision,
And if you're wavering and wanting to get a ticket before it sells out or worried, you can always message us, and I can pretty easily look from almost anywhere I am at what our ticket sales are and tell you. And I do that for people all the time. Sometimes they'll say they don't know if they want to buy in advance or not, and I'll look at the numbers and I'll be like, you're going to be totally safe to get it at the gate. Or I'll tell them, yeah, you really probably should buy one now if you want to make sure you get in.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of a shift from last year to this year. For sure, the majority of our sales are still online. Very few are at the gate. But we are seeing a ton of action the week of, where before last year, I think there was literally nothing going on. And everybody was able to plan well in advance and say, well, I'm going to the drive-in in 2 months. What else do I got going on? Where now we're seeing big bursts the week of. As soon as that marquee post goes up on social media, the ticketing blows up every single time. It's that visual for people. I always wonder how many people really treat their social medias like a platform to kind of get their news versus, a pure mindless escape. So it's very hard to just get the word out to people.
It is. There are so many people who we see post like after Lynch weekend was over. Oh man, I would have gone to this had I known. And it's just like, I don't know how much more we can do in this day and age. We have our social media platforms. We've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the website. And because we draw literally from all over the country, it's not like the old days where you'd put it in a newspaper and everybody in a region who would be likely to come to your theater would see it. The way people get information is so splintered now and so self-guided. It's really hard to know. We just hope that with social media, the ability to share events helps it spread that way, and people will alert their friends who might not be on our radar, or we may not be on their radar, as to what we have going on. But I always feel bad when people miss events, and I always just try to say, I give them the link if they say anything to us. This is the page. If you go to our website, look under events, current events, everything we've announced will be listed there until we close for the year.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's hard for a fan to gauge, especially coming off of last season. Every single thing sold out last year. Almost every single event was selling out. So there is certainly that urgency for tickets.
But we do have tickets available at the gate for anybody who is a question mark on it.
Right. We still sell tickets the old-fashioned way. But, and it's funny you mentioned about weather and stuff like that. Now, this doesn't apply to us anymore because we're not first run. But when the drive-in was first run, the movie studios themselves would not allow refunds. They would say, you're a drive-in. It doesn't matter if it's rain, snow, sleet, or hail. There's no giving back money for weather. That was the studios, enforced that. They said there's no way you give money back for weather-related instances.
Right.
So we're just transferring that over because when you think about it, it seems mean at first, but it makes the most sense. Like you said, when you have events like we have, and you're talking about this event, then, well, can we transfer to this next event because we couldn't? It's almost impossible to do without getting into all kinds of money problems. So we just have to kind of hold the line on that.
Yeah, when we're talking about an event like Zombiefest, that has 9 films on 35 millimeter, multiple guests, so many elements, it's tens of thousands of dollars to put on an event like this, And
Yes.
people can certainly understand. Mark sees it. I see those emails come through of people when they get the news that we don't do refunds or transfers. They say, "Oh, that's totally cool." It's never a fight. It's a lot of people will really, really go above and beyond to make sure that their ticket is given to somebody else, that it's transferred to somebody else. We've even had this year at the gate, somebody pulled up. This is what Will and the guys were telling me. Somebody pulled up, they bought too many tickets or something like that, or a girlfriend couldn't show up. So they said the next person that comes in, that's their ticket. So the person pulls up and they say, 1 ticket, please. And they, you don't have to worry about it. The guy in front of you just passed his ticket on over. That doesn't happen everywhere,
It doesn't. And it just goes to show the kind of people we have coming to our drive-in. Very generous. Instead of wasting a ticket, give it to somebody else. I've seen people, oh, I got too many hamburgers. Hey, buddy, would you like a hamburger? That kind of stuff goes on all the time.
I mentioned in an earlier podcast, we had somebody come up and say that they were paying for the people behind them. And we at the order table thought that they were with this man. And he just decided he was going to pick up the check of the strangers behind him in line. And it was quite a wonderful little Mahoning moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful when that happens. Yep.
Put the pedal to the metal and hold on tight, because that highballin' bandit's gonna ride tonight. Fasten your seatbelts, turn on that CB, and get ready for the death-defying ride of a lifetime as a trucker named Elegant John forever abolishes the Great Smoky Roadblock. In a stolen truck filled with ladies of dubious past and doubtful reputation, Elegant John sets out on the wildest cross-country trailer truck chase in the history of the American highway. The Great Smoky Roadblock, starring Henry Fonda, Eileen Brennan, John Viner, Dub Taylor, and Dana House as Celeste Lay. The Great Smoky Roadblock from Dimension Pictures. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. It's the fanciest trucking you've ever seen.
Well, we can talk about something that's brewing with the Joe Bob event. We're working on something very, very special with that event that fans will be very, very pleased about. We will be doing our ticketing slightly different for that event. You guys should see a press release coming out shortly and an event being announced shortly on that. But it's a good segue into tickets and ticket scamming. Joe Bob has been sold out now for, almost 2 months.
Yeah.
And we have people reach out all the time and say, hey, I have this person reaching out and saying they have tickets available. Is this legitimate? Hey, I just saw that there's tickets listed on StubHub. Is this legitimate? So the big thing to remember for anybody who is trying to sell you a ticket, it has to be done through the Ticket Leap site officially, because we check IDs at the gate, especially for big events. And if this ticket is not in your name, which needs to be done through Ticket Leap, it's going to be a big question mark when you come and pull up at the theater with John's ticket and you're Sally.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the big indicator is, if somebody is trying to sell this through a third-party site or trying to email you a barcode or something like that, sounds fishy. Most people can see through that and smell a scam, but it just breaks our heart that there's still those people, especially for Joe Bob, because it's a high ticket event. And, you know, we don't want to see anybody get taken advantage of just trying to come and see a show at the Mahoning.
And I've talked about this before, but again, there might be somebody who doesn't listen to all 20 of these episodes and retain all the information. So I'll say it again. We get hit regularly on the comments section of our Facebook page with people saying they have tickets for sale. They can't make it. Usually it involves a death in the family or some kind of thing. They use a lot of common language like, please like and DM me, selling tickets at a reduced rate. They're scammers. They're not real people. They're either bots or people with fake profiles. I scour our pages a dozen times a day and I delete them and I ban the users. And what's funny is that there's a post I put, or I try to put, in every single event page in the discussion on every single event on Facebook that describes this and tells people really only buy them from Ticket Leap, don't buy them from individuals, blah, blah, blah. And there's some keywords in there that trigger these scammers, because most of the scam posts I find are under the post that says don't buy tickets from scammers. So if you see somebody selling tickets, once in a while, somebody will contact us privately. It's somebody that we know is a regular customer. And I tell them, yes, you can post that. And I, as the theater, will post under it that we vouch for you. But other than that, don't do it, because we had a lot of people get ripped off last year, including good friends of the theater get ripped off last year. Somebody, you know, somehow gets a screenshot of somebody else's ticket and sells it repeatedly. Seriously, just go through Ticket Leap, or ask us if somebody is legit or something, but don't fall for it, because we really hate to see anybody get taken advantage of.
And we work with you every time. You know what I mean? If there's an issue, reach out. I mean, Mark has taken on such a workload this year. It's insane. And I keep telling Jeff and Mark, like, catching up on my end of the emails is just insanity. I feel terrible, but like, there's so much going on. We say it at the beginning of every year. Once the season comes, it sweeps us up into this wave. And it's so hard when people reach out and they're like, hey, do you want to put on a show in August? It's like, that's been booked for months, like, you know, almost a year. So it's really tough to kind of juggle and not hurt any feelings once the season gets going, you know, with the insane amount of communication that we have to deal with on a regular basis. This is a perfect time to remind people that like 4 people run this business.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best. We're doing our best.
Mr. Projectionist, stop the show. Here's great news you ought to know. We've just got a shipment of taste-thrilled treats, all tip-top quality and delicious eats. There are hot dogs and popcorn and candy galore. There's soft drinks and coffee and a whole lot more. So direct your steps to our refreshment stand to enjoy the finest snacks in all the land.
Speaking of messaging, there is now a way for you, the viewer, and when I say viewer, of course, I mean listener, of Mahoning Drive-In Radio, to send us voice messages. What I would love is anybody who's willing to let us use your voice in whole or in part on this podcast, send us a message about a favorite drive-in memory of yours. Send us a message talking to us about the drive-in you used to go to, or that you currently go to, your favorite drive-in, any kind of drive-in memories, and we'll incorporate them into this show as we go along. Now, the way to do that is to go to anchor.fm/Mahoning Drive-In, and there's a button right there that says message, and that lets you leave us a voice message through your computer or through your phone. Be as lengthy as you want, and I will use my editing scissors with great power and responsibility.
My brain just exploded. That's a thing?
That's a thing. I thought we could do it, and I looked into it right before we started recording, and it seems to be incredibly simple. So if you just go to anchor.fm/Mahoning Drive-In, which is the website for this podcast, where I think a lot of people listen to us, there is a button right there on the main page that says message.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, if people can leave memories, certainly, you know, your favorite memories from the Mahoning events past, what a fun aspect of this show that's going to be. We're turning the mic on you.
We'll let you do the work for us. No.
Yeah.
I always
exactly.
hated that when companies would do a contest to win something cool, and it's like, shoot us a 30-second commercial. I'm like, shoot your own 30-second commercial. I just want to win free stuff. No, but we thought this would be cool because it's a way to reach out. We know this show is listened to. We see the stats on Anchor. This show is listened to shockingly all over the world by all kinds of people. And you listen predominantly because you either know us or you like drive-ins. And I would love this show to be, it's the core. It's always going to be about the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, but it's also about drive-ins in general and the love of drive-ins. And we would love to hear from you.
That's really fun.
Yeah, especially since so many drive-ins that people grew up with are not there anymore. The majority of them in this country are gone, and they're not coming back. So when you leave a memory, that really touches us because it means a lot to us because we've got one drive-in that we want to see make it into the future for generations to come. And so anything about a drive-in from the past really touches us.
Oh, yeah.
A snow cone, please. Cut. What's with this snow cone bit? The word is water.
But I want a snow cone.
Now let's try it again. Now this time stick to the script.
Okay.
Action.
Water. Water, please. So I get water. But where you are, you can get snow cones. Bring me one, will you please? Any flavor.
I got something to talk about. There's going to be some changes at the Mahoning starting this weekend.
What?
Yeah. Get this. The concession stand will officially be open for business.
Oh, baby.
Lady!
Yes. We have been waiting for that for how long? Man.
Yeah, it's been all of last year and then pretty much all of this year. We've been doing door service, bay door service.
Right. Almost half of it. Yeah, it was door service.
Yeah. So now we're shifting back to the way things were, how a lot of you guys remember the Mahoning. You can come on into the bay doors, you can walk through the corral line yourself, and you can take part in all the fun that we have inside of the concession stand, including the wall of VHS, which everybody missed and always asks us when they come into the projection booth. We're always like, oh, cool, they're here to see the projectors. And they're like, hey, can I peek at that VHS wall?
Oh, even this last weekend, when people were coming in to see celebs, we had a celeb autograph line on one side of the doors and the order doors on the other, and people were working their way around the celebrities.
They're like, whatever, there's VHSs over here.
Yeah,
exactly. And we've actually updated that wall recently with a lot more donations from Harry's Hall, from the man who was the Phantom of the movies. We've got some of his VHS. People always ask, are we taking donations? I always say yes.
Hell yes.
We might curate them a little to make them fit on the wall. You only need so many copies of the 2-tape Pearl Harbor on our wall.
Yeah.
The previous videotape man, VHS man that lived in the snack bar for many years was made up of a lot of those, 8th copy of Pearl Harbor and Titanic that we had. But, so we try to make it be cool stuff up there. We always will take donations. We've got DVDs in there. We've got vintage vinyl. We have, we just did a new display of all of our past event posters, which are amazing. If you've poked your head in the doors and seen the decor on the walls, it's mostly our old posters from previous shows. We now have those in like a slotted cubby system with a display book, so you can look through that, grab the posters you want from the past and pay for those at the register along with any other media in there. And then, hot food served to you by smiling faces.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a really great thing. We're going to have to get used to people breezing in the other door, the other projection room door, and coming to visit us in the projection booth. But we are shifting a little bit with our mask mandate as well, as per the state's regulation. We are allowing people to walk the lot maskless, but once they come into the concession stand, we're asking for everybody's safety and comfort that they mask up. Very simple. Everybody had no problem with that. We actually opened up the stand yesterday for Cobra, which Cobra was awesome, man. What a fun movie.
That was so great to see that movie again.
And the print looked awesome.
It looked perfect. The sound was great. I had not seen that on the big screen since opening weekend in '86, and it was a total blast.
The Tuesdays have really delivered.
That's about it.
And Jeff, you had said in a previous show, you projected that at a drive-in when it came out, right?
Yeah, that was the Highway Drive-In down in Limerick. I was running that in '86, and I had that movie brand new. And it was a blast back then too.
We had a really cool vintage car, kind of in the style of Stallone's vehicle, which if you guys are familiar with the movie, there's a lot of great kind of staple lines in that movie. But maybe the most infamous scene is when he chops the slice of pizza, single slice of pizza, with a pair of scissors.
Yeah.
And we had pizza last night. A lot of people taking their pictures with scissors. And it was a really, really kind of fun night for sure.
It is time to get down because this is Gordon Kong with you along, and it is showtime! Go down to Record City, USA. You can dance to the beat, catch your feet, shake your blues away. And the girls are always booty.
Aubrey Company presents Record City. Go world. Get down, get down. Record City, a cinematic supermarket of song with a lot of strange folks to help you along. Home wreckers, discothequers, detectives, defectives, gropies, groupies, chicks, chicklets, jive talkers, streetwalkers, and who could forget the customers? Ruth Buzzy, Michael Callan, Jack Carter, Rick Dees, Kinky Friedman, Alice Ghostly, Joe Higgins, Larry Storch, and Frank Gorshin as the rabbi, and Frank Gorshin as the great white hunter, and Frank Gorshin as the chameleon. In Record City, the movie with the message to the world from music lovers everywhere.
Throw up. Go for it.
Stick it in your ear.
Come back here and say that again. Hollow it out. It makes a hell of a hash pipe.
Ciao, baby. So ease on down to the store with more and get your laughs off at the nitty-gritty Record City.
Well, Mark, I had little Virgie last night. We watched Cobra from the hammock, but on cases when I have Virgie and Fancy isn't with me up there, it makes it very difficult to run the radio show. So last minute, I turned to Mark. I said, "Hey, bud, how do you feel about running the radio show tonight?"
When I was in college, I was like Luke Skywalker. I started my DJ Jedi training and then I stopped and I never did it. So DJing was something I always wanted to do, like on a radio station. And I finally was able to do that like 2 years ago at our theater because we have the DJ booth set up in the projection room. And I loved it. And I wound up doing it 2 or 3 days in a row. And I had intended to get back to it last year, but I was so busy working the order table with COVID going on, I never got to. So I happened to have my laptop with me in the snack bar trying to do some other work, and I heeded the call. And I quickly got on the mic and I rambled some BS about something, and I said, "And now Simon and Garfunkel's classic, The Sounds of Silence." And then for the next 3 minutes, people heard nothing while I set up my laptop. And I proceeded to do a DJ set. We had no Wi-Fi. That was the other thing too. A local car accident up the street knocked out our internet. So I had to just play. I couldn't use Spotify like I normally would, where I have tons of saved music and playlists. So I just had to work with what I happened to have on my computer's hard drive. So I think I played all but 2 tracks that I had sitting there. And the audience was entertained or tortured by the sounds of a lot of late 60s cartoon rock, weird Sammy Davis Jr. singing the Alka-Seltzer theme for 3 minutes, old radio spots for movies, which was kind of cool. I actually was able to play some Logan's Run radio spots, which is fun because we're playing that on June 27th as part of Drive-In Apocalypse. Yeah. But the DJ thing is a thing I love. And that is all possible because Jeff owns and brought in and had installed a vintage DJ booth.
How did you acquire that, Jeff?
That booth used to be the on-air studio for WEST in Easton. My boss here at my radio station bought it, probably about 10 years ago or so. And he bought it just for the license. He wanted the WEST license. He didn't want it for the production room or the on-air studio or anything like that. So we were going through the radio station, which, WEST, that's Easton. So we were in downtown Easton. We were going through the radio station. He looks and said, I don't want any of this stuff. He said, get rid of it. He said, take what you want and get rid of the rest. So the on-air studio was complete. The board was there, all the microphones, everything there was complete, and I gutted it. I just took everything, the furniture, the chairs, even the electric fan. I mean, I took everything that was in there and put it into storage, because I had in the back of my mind, someday I was going to put it at the drive-in. Didn't know when that was going to be, because at that time it wasn't my business yet. So I thought, I'm putting this in storage and I'm going to hang on to it, because someday I'll put it at the drive-in and we can have a DJ booth and we can do what we do now. Run interviews, run music before the show, have a live DJ, making it more exciting for everybody. And it finally came along after I got the business. And yeah, I waited about another year because there was all kinds of things going on. But then I thought, it's time to bring this up here. So I had it reassembled. And you guys know, I think a couple of you guys were along with me. But it was all in this little storage bin. And we had to unpack everything and get it out. And then some of these pieces are heavy, like the furniture part. Some of that piece of furniture that all the equipment sits on was heavy. And it was hard getting it into the door of the projection booth itself anyway, let alone get it around the projectors and into that corner. So it was a lot of work by a lot of fine people, myself, Virgil, and a few others. Matt was there at the time. And we put it together, got it all wired up. Tony came in and Chuck also helped with the wiring. And it's like an honest to goodness radio station. We're just broadcasting from the projection booth. That's the only difference.
Oh yeah. That's where we get the intro to this show, 89.3 Mahoning Drive-In. That all was born right there at that booth.
Exactly. And it's a full functioning booth. We've got turntables, we've got cassette players, we've got you can plug in, if you're the type of DJ that only uses their computer, you can plug in your computer, you can plug in a flash drive. So, if you're going to guest DJ, you've got all kinds of routes you can take to get the job done.
Yeah, and it's an extension of what we do, who we are. And I think it really did solidify a lot of this, where people were used to us being in their ears each night. They were used to us being very open about what's going on at the theater. And that's pretty much what we all do on the air, for sure. And we have a lot of great guest DJs who come in, staples to the theater, for sure, for the Exhumed events, the most coveted weekends, where people are literally, before the season even starts, they're like, hey, I got that Saturday, right, of Camp Blood, right? It's just people want to deliver that aspect of the show for their friends and the fans of the Mahoning. It's really, really fun, and like Mark said, it's something I think all of us wanted to do and continue to do if we were into it before. So it's a lot of fun, for sure.
It is, and it's a great way for people to get not only entertainment, playing the music, but also finding out like what's coming up in the next week or two, et cetera, et cetera. It's a great way to get your drive-in information also.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, even when I'm working in the snack bar, I like to have the radio on, partly because I am entertained by everything everybody plays. The DJs are a mix of staff and friends and occasionally customers who, get the training and just bring in and play whatever music they like. And everybody's mic style is interesting, and everybody's, musical tastes are interesting. And when I'm in the snack bar working, I like to hear it for the music, but I also use it because it lets me know when showtime is going to be. If suddenly, we hear a meteor is headed toward the snack bar, that's how I'm going to find out. So it's informative for staff as well as customers.
Exactly. It's the way the staff gets their information too.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.
Well, we have a lot to look forward to, for sure, this month. And, whenever you guys come out to the theater, you never know who you're going to hear on the radio. It could be me, it could be Jeff, really. It could be Mark, you never know. So hopefully we see you guys out at the theater very, very soon. On behalf of the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, myself, Jeff, Mark. On that note, Jeff, Take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night and God bless you.